At first, everyone thought Miranda Cole had come to the wedding to cry. After all, her husband, Derek, had humiliated her in the cruelest way possible. He stood in their living room, adjusted his designer watch, looked at the woman who had sacrificed everything for him and said, "I'm too good for you." Then he filed for divorce, took the house, emptied the accounts, and walked straight into the arms of his wealthy boss, Vanessa Hale. But Derek wasn't finished. To prove he had upgraded, he sent Miranda an invitation to his luxury wedding, expecting her to arrive broken, ashamed, and invisible. He wanted Vanessa to see the poor ex-wife he had escaped from. What he didn't know was that Miranda had just inherited $300 billion from the grandfather everyone believed had died poor. So when the church doors opened and Miranda stepped out of a white Rolls-Royce, surrounded by bodyguards, wearing calm power like a crown, the entire room froze. Derek laughed nervously until the CEO of Vanessa's company rushed forward, bowed his head, and called Miranda Madam Owner. That was when Vanessa's smile collapsed. Because Miranda didn't just inherit money. She inherited the company Vanessa had been using to climb society. She inherited the building Derek bragged about. And worst of all, she inherited the power to decide whether both of them would still have a future by Monday morning. But what Derek did next in front of every guest was so shameless, so desperate, and so unbelievable that people pulled out their phones to record it. And Miranda's response. It didn't just shock the wedding. It destroyed the lie Derek built his entire new life on. For 3 long seconds after the CEO bowed, nobody moved. The violinist missed a note. The priest lowered his program. Vanessa's bridesmaids stood with their mouths slightly open, their pale pink bouquets hanging uselessly at their sides. Even the camera crew stopped pretending they were invisible. One man slowly adjusted his lens, as if he understood the ceremony had just become something bigger than a wedding. Derek's smile stayed on his face, but it no longer belonged there. It was frozen, stretched, desperate. "Madam Owner," he repeated, laughing once through his nose. No, that's impossible." Miranda didn't answer him immediately. She simply stood at the entrance of the grand church in her ivory-tailored suit, not a wedding dress, not a revenge gown, not the costume of a woman begging to be noticed. It was clean, elegant, expensive in a way that did not shout. Her hair was swept back from her face. Diamond earrings caught the daylight pouring through the stained glass windows, but her expression was what held the room. Calm. Too calm. That calmness was what frightened Derek most. He had known Miranda when she cried silently over unpaid bills. He had known her when she stayed up past midnight ironing his shirts for investor meetings. He had known her when she ate leftovers so he could afford restaurant dinners with clients. He had known her when she smiled politely at people who ignored her, when she sat at the edge of corporate dinners because Derek said she did not understand real business conversations. But he had never seen this Miranda before. This Miranda did not look angry. She looked finished. The man who had bowed to her was Franklin Mercer, the group CEO of Crownville Global Holdings, a company so powerful that men like Derek spoke its name the way ordinary people spoke about presidents. Crownville owned hospitals, hotels, airports, insurance firms, real estate towers, shipping ports, and private investment banks across continents. It owned the company Vanessa had spent 3 years trying to climb. It owned the downtown glass building, where Derek used to take selfies in the lobby and tell people he was close to serious power. Franklin Mercer was not a man who bowed to anyone. Yet he remained slightly bent before Miranda, his silver hair glowing under the church lights, waiting respectfully for her permission to rise. Miranda gave the smallest nod. "Thank you, Franklin." That was all. 2 words. But those 2 words moved through the church like thunder. Vanessa took 1 step backward, her white dress whispering across the marble floor. "Franklin," she said, trying to laugh, "what is this? Is this some kind of publicity stunt?" Franklin straightened. "No, Ms. Hale. Ms. Hale. Not Vanessa. Not bride. Not partner. Ms. Hale. That small change of address did more damage than a slap. Derek noticed it too. His eyes darted from Franklin to Miranda, then to the 4 bodyguards behind her. They stood in perfect formation, dark suits, earpieces, hands folded in front of them. One of them carried a black leather folder with a gold insignia Derek had never seen before, though he had bragged for months about knowing every symbol of serious wealth. The guests began whispering. Is that his ex-wife? She owns Crownville. I thought Vanessa worked there. No, Vanessa works under one of the subsidiaries. Derek divorced her for his boss. This is insane. Miranda heard all of it. She had heard whispers all her life. When she was 8, she had heard her mother's friends whisper that her grandfather, Elijah Cole, had wasted his life fixing clocks in a narrow little shop on the poor side of town. When she was 13, she heard classmates whisper that she wore second-hand shoes. When she was 25, she heard Derek's mother whisper that her son could have married higher. When she was 32, she heard Vanessa whisper at a charity dinner, "Some women are born to support greatness, not become it." Miranda used to let whispers enter her chest and stay there. But her grandfather had once told her something while repairing an old pocket watch with cracked glass. "Child," Elijah had said, his hands steady despite his age, "people whisper when they don't have the courage to knock on the door of truth. Let them whisper. One day, the door will open by itself." Miranda had not understood him then. She understood him now. Vanessa forced a smile. "Derek, say something." Derek swallowed hard. His face had begun to shine under the lights. "Miranda," he said, and his voice came out softer than he intended. "What are you doing here?" A murmur moved through the room again. The invitation, resting inside Miranda's purse, suddenly felt heavier than paper. Derek had sent it with a handwritten note. "Hope you can handle seeing what success looks like." She had read it once, standing in the small rented room where she had slept after the divorce. The ceiling leaked when it rained. The bathroom sink coughed brown water. The lock on the door had to be pushed twice before it caught. She had sat on the bed with the invitation in her lap and felt nothing at first. Not pain. Not jealousy. Not even surprise. Just a quiet emptiness. Then her phone rang. It had been a number she did not recognize. She almost ignored it, thinking it was another debt collector calling about accounts Derek had drained before the final divorce settlement, but something made her answer. "Is this Ms. Miranda Elaine Cole?" a careful voice asked. "Yes. My name is Adrian Bell. I am the legal executor of Mr. Elijah Cole's estate." Miranda had closed her eyes. "My grandfather died 6 years ago." "No, Ms. Cole," the man said gently. "Your grandfather lived under protected identity status for the last 6 years. He passed away 3 days ago in Geneva." She remembered standing so quickly, the invitation fell from her lap. Geneva. Protected identity. Estate. The room seemed to tilt. Adrian Bell continued, "There are things Mr. Cole wanted you to know personally. He left a sealed message for you, along with controlling interest in multiple private trusts, including the Crownville Global Holdings structure." Miranda had laughed once because the sentence made no sense. "My grandfather fixed clocks." There was a pause on the line. "Yes," Adrian said, "he did, and before that, he built one of the largest private investment networks in the world." By the time Miranda learned the truth, Derek was already posting engagement photos with Vanessa on social media. By the time she signed the first estate confirmation document, Derek had already told mutual friends that divorce had been mercy because Miranda had no ambition. By the time she saw her grandfather's final video, Derek's wedding invitation had arrived. In the video, Elijah Cole sat in a leather chair near a window overlooking mountains. He looked thinner than she remembered, but his eyes were still bright. Miranda, he said, smiling with sadness, I owe you the truth. I built wealth in silence because noise attracts wolves. Your grandmother paid for that lesson. Your mother paid for that lesson. I refused to let you pay for it before you had strength enough to carry the weight. Forgive me. Miranda had cried then, not because of the money, but because the old man she thought had died alone had been alive, watching from a distance, protecting what she did not know existed. You were never poor, Elijah continued in the video. You were hidden, there is a difference. Those words had followed her everywhere. You were hidden. There is a difference. Now standing in the church where Derek expected to display her shame, Miranda looked at him and said, You invited me. A few guests gasped softly. Derek blinked. That was, I didn't think you would actually come. Clearly. Vanessa's fingers tightened around her bouquet. This is inappropriate. This is my wedding. Miranda turned her eyes to her. Yes, I can see that. Vanessa lifted her chin. Then why are you here? Miranda's gaze dropped to the bouquet, then to the diamond necklace at Vanessa's throat. It was the same necklace Derek had claimed was a corporate gift 2 months before the divorce. Miranda remembered seeing the receipt in his jacket pocket, $58,000. At the time, their mortgage was late. Her car needed repairs. Derek told her she had to be more patient because success required sacrifice. Apparently, sacrifice had meant Miranda walking to work, while Vanessa wore diamonds. I came, Miranda said, because your groom insisted I witness what success looks like. A ripple passed through the guests. Someone near the back said, Oh my God. Derek's mother, Gloria, rose from the front pew. She was dressed in deep purple lace, her church hat tilted at an angle of moral superiority. Gloria had spent years treating Miranda like an unpaid servant who had accidentally married into royalty. Now listen here, Gloria snapped. I don't know what trick you pulled, but you are not going to ruin my son's wedding. You had your chance to be a good wife, and you failed. Miranda looked at Gloria for the first time. The old words came back, sharp and bitter. You don't bring enough to the table. A woman without pedigree should be grateful. Derek needs a wife who can elevate